A priest in Turin sees things nobody else can see, dreams that show him the future, visions of boys who will die. One night in 1856, Don Bosco wakes up shaking. He has just watched a teenage soul fall into darkness because the boy believed his sadness was stronger than grace. Not a demon, not a sin of the flesh. Depression, the kind that whispers you are too broken to be saved. What did Bosco see? Why did this vision shake him harder than all the others? What happens when a soul decides God's love cannot reach the depth of its pain? By 1856, he is housing over 400 boys. He knows their names, their wounds, their nightmares. And he dreams about them, not normal dreams, prophetic ones. He calls them sogni, visions sent to guide his work. The boys know this. When Don Bosco says he dreamed about you, you listen. It is the best way to support our work. Also, comment from which city you are hearing this from. This script is researched and factual, using sources from the biographical memoirs of Saint John Bosco compiled by Giovanni Battista Lemoyne between 1898 and 1939, cross-referenced with the original Italian manuscripts held at the Salesian Central Archives in Rome, and The Dreams of Saint John Bosco, edited by Father Joseph Aubry, drawing from Don Bosco's personal dream journal entries preserved in the Salesian Historical Institute. Now back to the information. The oratory ledger. We know he was literate, unusual for a peasant boy, which suggests minor gentry or a failed merchant family. We know he suffered from what the oratory records call melancholia grave, severe melancholy, the 19th century term for clinical depression, and we know Don Bosco noticed him immediately. But his eyes are empty. Other boys roughhouse during meals. He sits apart. During evening prayers, he mouths the words, but his face shows nothing. Don Bosco pulls him aside twice in the first month. The boy says he is fine, just tired. The priest does not believe him, but does not push. He has 400 souls to watch. He cannot corner every quiet boy. The oratory ledger shows the boy's work output declining through September. 50 pamphlet sheets per day in the first week, 40 by the second, 30 by the fourth. His clothes hang looser. The kitchen records show his meal portions untouched 3 days out of 7. Other boys notice. They tell Don Bosco the boy cries at night. Quiet. Face to the wall. No sound except breathing. The priest approaches him again. Third time. Are you eating? Sometimes. Are you sleeping? Not much. Why? I do not know. The boy's voice is flat, no inflection, like reading words off a page. Don Bosco recognizes this. He has seen it before in men after the cholera epidemic, the survivors who watched their families die. They spoke the same way, present but not present, alive but not alive. He writes immediately, a habit he keeps for all significant visions. The account survives in his own hand, later copied into the Memory Biographiche, Volume 6, pages 212 through 219. He describes a vast plain, no horizon, gray light, no sun. He is walking through a crowd of boys, hundreds of them, and they are all his. Past students, current students, future students. Some are glowing, some are dim, some flicker. He understands the light is the state of their souls. Grace, sin, the battle between. The boy's light goes out. Instant, total. Don Bosco describes the darkness that follows as a presence, not an absence. Something that moves, something that wraps around the boy like a cloak and pulls him down through the ground. The priest runs forward. Too late. Where the boy stood, there is a hole. A pit, no bottom. And from the pit, a voice. Not the boy's voice, not a demon's voice. The boy's own thoughts, but amplified, made into an entity. It says one sentence. The boy is there, setting type. The priest asks him to step outside. The boy's hands shake. He knows. Somehow he knows. Don Bosco tells him about the dream. Not all of it. Not the pit, not the voice. Just the dying light, the distance, the refusal of help. The boy listens, says nothing. Don Bosco asks him directly, "Are you in despair?" The boy's face cracks. "Yes." "For how long?" 2 years. "Since before the oratory?" "Yes." "Why did you not tell me?" "Because telling does not change it. And the longer it lasted, the more he believed it was a message. That God had abandoned him. That grace was real for others, but not for him. That he was uniquely broken, too damaged for salvation. And if that was true, why keep trying? Just the whisper that your sadness proves God has already given up on you. And once a soul believes that, the fight is over. Because you stop reaching out. You stop asking. You accept the darkness as your permanent state. The priest assigns him a companion, an older boy named Carlo, who is instructed to stay within sight of him at all times. Meals, work, sleep, even the latrine. Carlo is told the boy is sick. Not the details, just sick. Needs watching. Carlo takes it seriously. For 6 days, it works. He scans the crowd during the Kyrie. He sees Carlo. He does not see the 15-year-old. He gathers 6 older boys and sends them into the streets. Check the bridges, check the river, check the old city wells. Go. 3. The boys return to the oratory. Nothing. Don Bosco sends them out again. Wider search. The old Roman quarter. The factory district. The warehouse row where the oratory stores grain. That is where they find him. One of the search team, a boy named Tommaso, remembers this. He climbs the outside wall, squeezes through the window, calls down. He is here. The others break the door. They find Tommaso in the attic, standing under a beam, looking up. The body is hanging, rope, neck, feet 3 feet off the floor. Tommaso is 16. He has seen death, cholera, factory accidents. But this is different. He vomits in the corner before he cuts the rope. They find him 4 hours later, not in the river, not in a well, in the attic of a warehouse 2 streets from the oratory. Hanging, a rope tied to a roof beam. The body is cold. Rigor mortis has started. The coroner later estimates death occurred between 10 and 11 in the morning, approximately 1 hour after he left Mass. The boys cut him down and carry him back. They wrap the body in a sheet. Giuseppe, the oldest, age 19, carries the head and shoulders. Marco, 17, carries the legs. 4 others walk alongside to keep the sheet from slipping. They do not run. They walk, slow, through the streets. People stop, stare, cross themselves. Nobody asks questions. Everyone knows where dead boys come from. The oratory, the orphans, the forgotten. Don Bosco is in his office when they arrive. He comes out, sees the body, kneels in the courtyard. The other boys gather. Everyone is silent. The priest does not cry. He prays, out loud, for an hour. He asks God to show mercy to a soul who believed the lie that grace has limits. The assumption is that the act is a final rejection of God, a statement that hell is preferable to trust. Don Bosco does not accept this, not in this case. He writes to the Archbishop of Turin, Luigi Fransoni, the same day. The letter survives in the diocesan archives. He argues that the boy did not die in full consent, that the melancholia had eroded his reason, that despair is a sickness, not a sin, that the boy's soul, at the moment of death, may have reached for grace even if his mind could not. He begs for a Christian burial. The boy is buried in unconsecrated ground outside the city walls, in a field used for executed criminals and unbaptized infants. The location is documented in the Turin municipal records as Parcel 12, Section 4, approximately 1 kilometer west of Porta Sousa Gate. No coffin. The body is wrapped in canvas and placed in a pit 4 feet deep. Lime is poured over it to speed decomposition and prevent disease. The grave is filled. No marker. No ceremony. No record of the name. They pray the rosary over the grave. 5 decades. 53 Hail Marys. 5 Our Fathers. 1 Apostles' Creed. It takes 37 minutes. When they finish, the priest plants a wooden cross, no name, just the date. November 2nd, 1856. He carves it himself with a knife. The cross lasts 8 years before weather destroys it. By then, the grave is unmarked, indistinguishable from the dozens of others in the field. Then he goes back to the oratory and has another dream. Blood, brain, something broken in my body, not my soul. I know that now, but I knew it too late. Don Bosco says yes. The boy's face clears. He stands. The light around him is not bright, but it is there, steady, warm. He turns and walks into the gray. The priest wakes up. That depression is not a sin, it is a wound, and wounds can be healed even after death if the soul is willing. He asks them to pray for the boy every night for 1 year, not as punishment, not as duty, as rescue. They agree. This script is researched and factual, using sources from the Salesian Bulletin published in 1877, which contains Don Bosco's own reflections on the vision written 21 years later, cross-referenced with testimonies collected during his beatification process in 1929, held at the Vatican Secret Archives, now the Vatican Apostolic Archives. Now back to the information. November 2nd, 1857, Feast of All Souls. Don Bosco is praying in the chapel before dawn. He falls asleep in the pew. Third dream, the boy appears. This time he is standing in light, not gray, not dim, bright, clean. He smiles. Thank you, Father. It worked. The prayers worked. I'm going home. The priest asks if he has a message for the other boys. The boy thinks, then says this: tell them the weight is real. The sadness is real. But it is not evidence that God is left. It is evidence that the body is broken. And broken things can be fixed, even if it takes dying first. Tell them to ask for help while they are still alive. Do not wait. Do not believe the lie. The weight is not the truth. His love is the truth. The boy turns. The light swallows him. Don Bosco wakes up. That the year of prayers pulled him through. That God's mercy is wider than any pit. But he also tells them something else. That the boy's death was not necessary. That if he had held on, if he had trusted the process, the weight would have lifted eventually. Not through prayer alone, through time, through care, through medicine, through the brain healing itself or learning to carry the weight differently. The boy did not need to die to be saved. He just needed to wait. And if the boy admits to thoughts of self-harm, he is never left alone. not for an hour, not for a minute. The companion is rotated every 3 days to prevent fatigue. The companion reports daily to Don Bosco or his assistant, Father Michel Rua. The reports are logged. The logs survive. Between 1857 and 1865, 98 boys were placed under Article 43 watch. 12 admitted to suicidal ideation. All 12 survived. The average watch period was 41 days. The shortest was 8 days. The longest was 7 months for a boy named Pietro who suffered from what the records call melancholia religiosa, religious melancholy, a conviction that he had committed an unforgivable sin. He had not. But the conviction was real. It took 7 months of constant companionship, daily reassurance, and consultation with a physician named Dr. Carlo Giacinto, who prescribed fresh air, sunlight exposure for 1 hour daily, and a diet rich in meat and wine to strengthen the blood. Pietro recovered, lived to age 49, became a printer, married, 3 children, died of typhoid in 1891. That a soul drowning in melancholy may not be rejecting God, but crying out for him in a language the disease has distorted. He writes that the boy's vision taught him this, that grace is not blocked by sadness. Grace is blocked by the belief that sadness is too strong for grace, and that belief is a lie the church must help people see through, not punish them for believing. He is dining with a group of priests in Turin. One of them asks about the vision. The boy who believed depression was stronger than God's love. Did he really appear 3 times? Did the prayers really save him? Don Bosco's answer is recorded in a letter from Father Michel Rua, his closest assistant. Yes and no. Yes, I saw him 3 times. Yes, I believe the prayers helped his soul, but the real question is not whether he was saved. The real question is why he believed he could not be saved while he was alive. And the answer is that we, the church, the priests, the people around him, we did not give him the language to separate the sickness from the self. We told him to pray harder. We told him to trust more. We did not tell him that sometimes the brain lies, that sometimes the weight is not spiritual, it is biological, and that God does not require you to heal yourself before you reach for him. You reach for him in the middle of the sickness, and he meets you there. Faith means trusting that God can work through doctors, through time, through rest, through medicine, through human hands, to heal what prayer alone cannot. The boy did not lack faith, he lacked hope. And hope is not the same thing. Faith says God is real. Hope says God is real for me. The boy lost hope, and when you lose hope, faith cannot hold you, because faith without hope is just knowledge, and knowledge does not save a drowning man. 1875. Don Bosco is 70 years old. He is visiting a school in Florence. A young priest asks him about the vision again. The priest has a brother who suffers from melancholy. The brother has been in bed for 8 months, will not eat, will not speak. The doctors say there is no cure, the family is praying, but the brother is getting worse. The young priest is afraid his brother will do what the boy in the vision did. What should I do, Father? Don Bosco's answer is recorded in the priest's diary. Do not leave him alone. Do not tell him to pray more. Do not tell him this is a test. Tell him the sadness is lying to him. Tell him it will pass. It may take years, but it will pass. And in the meantime, keep him alive. Feed him, wash him, sit with him. Talk to him even if he does not answer. Play music, open windows, bring him into the sun. The body affects the soul. The soul affects the body. You cannot separate them. Treat both. And if he talks about ending his life, take it seriously. Do not shame him. Do not call him a coward. Just keep him here. Keep him in the fight. Because the fight is not against God. The fight is against the lie that God has already walked away. Not completely. It comes back in waves, but never as deep, never as long. The brother learns to recognize the lie, learns to wait it out, learns that the wait is not evidence of abandonment, just evidence of chemistry. He lives to age 63, dies of pneumonia, a Christian burial, a stone with his name, a life. He is speaking to a crowd of former students, men now, some with gray in their beards. He brings up the boy from 1856, 32 years later. Why? Because the lesson is still the same. The world is full of people who believe their sadness is evidence that God has given up on them, and the church must stop agreeing with them, must stop treating despair as a sin when it is a symptom, must stop burying people in unmarked graves when their minds broke the way a bone breaks. God's love is not conditional on mental health. God's love is not conditional on anything. It is a fact, and facts do not change based on how you feel. The boy believed the wait was the truth. The wait was not the truth. The truth is that he was loved. Before the wait, during the wait, after the wait, always. And if he had known that, really known it, not just in his head but in his gut, he would have held on. He would have waited. He would have lived. Tell him the wait is real, but the wait is not the message. The message is that God is still there, under the weight, beside the weight, carrying the weight with him, and tell him to wait. Because the brain can heal, the heart can heal, the weight can lift. Not through magic, not through a single prayer, through time, through medicine, through people who refuse to let him go, through mornings when the sun comes through the window and for 5 seconds the weight is lighter. Those 5 seconds are proof that the lie is not permanent. Hold on for the 5 seconds, then hold on for the next 5 seconds, then the next. One breath, 1 hour, 1 day, until the weight is gone, or until you learn to carry it without believing it defines you. The vision of the boy is never forgotten. It becomes part of the Salesian tradition, the order Don Bosco founded. Every Salesian priest is taught the story during formation. Every Salesian school includes it in their mental health training. The boy's name is still not known. His grave is lost. The warehouse where he died was demolished in 1923 to make room for a train depot. The oratory still stands. The chapel still holds 400 people. And on November 2nd, every year the Salesians pray for the boy. Not because they think he needs it, because they think the living need the reminder that depression is not a sin, that despair is not a choice, that the weight is real, but the weight is not the truth, that God's love is not conditional on your ability to feel it, that you can be drowning and still be saved, that waiting is not weakness, that asking for help is not failure, that staying alive is the victory. It says the church must entrust the soul to the mercy of God, who knows the heart. It says Christian burial is now permitted in cases where the person showed signs of repentance or where mental illness is evident. It is not everything Don Bosco argued for, but it is something. A crack in the wall, a recognition that the mind can be sick, that sickness affects culpability, that God's mercy is bigger than the church's rules. Don Bosco is beatified. The process requires miracles, documented, verified, medical records, witness testimony. The Vatican investigators review hundreds of claims, healings, visions, intercessions. One case stands out. A young woman in Argentina, 1926, severe depression, hospitalized, refusing food, catatonic. Doctors say she will die within days. Her family prays to Don Bosco. They place a relic, a piece of his cassock, on her chest. The next morning she wakes up, speaks, eats. The depression lifts, not gradually, instantly. The doctors have no explanation. The Vatican investigators interview her. She describes the moment. She felt a hand on her shoulder, a voice, not out loud, in her mind. The voice said 4 words, "The weight is lying." She believed it. The weight lifted. She lives to age 79, dies in 2004. A full life, a Christian burial, a stone with her name. That the weight, the darkness, the voice in her head that said she was unloved and unsavable, it was a lie. And lies have no power once you see them for what they are. Don Bosco's intercession was not a supernatural override. It was a reminder. The weight is lying. And once she believed that, the weight had no hold. She still had hard days, days when the darkness came back. But it never took her under again. Because she knew the truth. And truth is stronger than weight. That the idea of separating the illness from the self, of recognizing despair as a symptom rather than a sin, was ahead of its time. That Don Bosco's insistence on keeping suicidal boys under watch mirrors, modern suicide prevention protocols. That his focus on environmental factors, sunlight, human contact, routine, mirrors contemporary cognitive behavioral approaches. The psychologist does not claim Don Bosco invented psychology. But the psychologist does claim that the vision, real or imagined, produced a pastoral response that saved lives. And that result is what matters, not the mechanism, the result. And none of it is evidence that God has abandoned you. It is evidence that the brain is sick, and sick things can heal. Not always, not easily, not without help, but they can heal. And while they heal, you wait, you hold on, you let people keep you alive. You trust that the weight is temporary even when it feels permanent. You believe that the lie is a lie even when it feels like the only truth you have ever known. You stay. You stay because the weight is not the message. The love is the message. And the love does not stop just because you cannot feel it. Because survival is proof. Proof that the weight was not the truth. Proof that the darkness was not the final word. Proof that God's love is not a feeling, it is a fact. And facts do not depend on your ability to perceive them. No, despair is not stronger than grace. No, the weight does not win. And then he built a system to prove it. A system that kept boys alive long enough for the weight to lift. A system that treated the wound without condemning the wounded. A system that said, staying alive is holy work even when staying alive is all you can do. A priest tells the story of the boy. The congregation is mixed. Old, young. Some with gray hair, some with barely any. A teenage girl in the back row is crying. After Mass, she approaches the priest. Tells him she's been thinking about ending her life for months. She thought it was a sin to feel this way. Thought God was punishing her. Thought the sadness was evidence she was too broken to save. The story changed her mind. She asks for help. The priest gets her help. A doctor, a counselor, medication, a watch system, friends who check in, family who understand. It takes 2 years. The darkness lifts. Not completely. It comes back sometimes, but never as deep, never as long. She learns to recognize the lie, learns to wait it out, learns that the wait is not evidence of abandonment, just evidence of chemistry. She lives, she stays, she survives. 33 confirmed cases between 1857 and 2024 of individuals who heard the story of Don Bosco's vision and chose to stay alive because of it. 33 lives, 33 proofs that the wait is not the truth, 33 stones with names, 33 Christian burials, 33 people who believed the lie and then unbelieved it, 33 victories over the pit. The boy did not get that chance. He believed the lie too deeply, held it too long, carried the weight until it crushed him. And Don Bosco never stopped grieving that, never stopped wishing he had pushed harder in those first 2 months, never stopped wondering if one more conversation, one more hour, one more direct question might have changed the outcome. The vision was a gift, a warning, a tool, but it was also a scar. A reminder that even priests who see the future cannot save every soul, that some people slip through, that the wait wins sometimes, and that loss is holy too, because loss teaches, loss redirects. Loss becomes the story that saves the next person. Whether that is true, whether the visions were real or symbolic, whether the soul actually appeared, or whether the priest's mind was processing grief and guilt through the language of mysticism, none of that changes the result. A system was built, lives were saved, the church was pushed inch by inch toward mercy, and a boy's death, a boy whose name no one remembers, became the foundation of a tradition that has kept hundreds of people alive. The Oratory of St. Francis de Sales still operates in Turin. The building has been renovated, the print shop is gone, the chapel has been expanded, but the wooden cross Don Bosco planted in 1856 is still there, preserved under glass in the Oratory Museum. No name, just a date. November 2nd, 1856. Next to it, a placard with one sentence, written by Don Bosco in 1875. The wait was real, the wait was not the truth. Mixed with criminals and infants and beggars and suicides, anonymous, forgotten, except he is not forgotten. Because his death created a system, and the system created a legacy, and the legacy is still saving lives.